Always a delight to have Dr. Joel Klein in the studio. He's with Ventana Wellness, and today we're talking about something that you are most likely struggling with. And we welcome your phone calls, by the way. If you want to join the conversation, give us a call, 776-5368. How you doing, Joel?
Good.
Happy summer to you.
Thanks.
It doesn't act like it out there.
Well, spring, so yeah, well, it tried to be summer, it looks like, and then it's, not yet.
Not yet. I think it's our second half of spring. Well, listen, let's see if I got this right. Stress, sleep, and fat. They're obviously connected.
All connected.
All right. And how do we connect them?
Well, you know, we touched on this before, and it really comes back, and a lot of people are becoming more and more aware of our friend, the cortisol. And the stress hormones. And a lot of what happens is people in chronic stress modes tend to have a reversed pattern of their normal cortisol. Cortisol is an interesting hormone. It peaks like first thing in the morning. Our highest levels are around 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, which is interesting why most heart attacks occur at 9 o'clock in the morning and 9 o'clock on Monday mornings, if anything. Yes, it's really revving us up, getting us ready for the day, working with metabolism, protein, carbohydrate in particular, blood pressure, and inflammation response. And then it goes down where it's supposed to go down, let's say, through the day. What happens in a chronic stress mode is that people actually reverse their normal cortisol curve. So it's actually low to low normal in the morning, and as people have trouble getting started, they do better. It kind of peters around through the day and then goes up at night. And this is the big problem. A higher cortisol at night interferes with sleep. You're actually breaking down the body rather than repairing during sleep, because one of the things that cortisol does is breaks down muscle to turn it into sugar. It's meant as a stress response to short-term sacrifice a little bit of the body to get us out of whatever danger we're supposed to be getting out of, because you know, if you're running from a wild animal, you either get away or you get eaten. So if the trick is to get away. If you get eaten, we're not worried about long-term consequences. So it's actually breaking down muscle, turning it into sugar, and of course the sugar's not getting burned because you're sleeping, so it gets turned into fat right around the belly.
Wow. And
this is one of the biggest problems for people. It also will cause people to, in its worst case, to show pre-diabetic tendencies. And you check the cholesterol panel, and it's not the cholesterol, but it's the triglycerides. The fat in the blood are high, and the HDL is low, the good cholesterol, and that's one of the key signs you're getting into an early diabetic type of metabolism.
Wow. All right, there's a lot there. Stress management being what it is, I think the whole culture is stressed out. Would you agree with that? I mean, the whole world's stressed out.
Absolutely.
And so we're crashing at the end of the day, or we're crashing in between meals with sugar highs and all of that.
Right.
So what's the best way to manage stress? I mean, is there an answer to that? I mean, besides not do it, I don't know how you can avoid it.
Well, it's not the external circumstances, right?
Yeah.
It's how we react to them,
right,
and what we're doing. I mean, this is the ultimate thing. I mean, lifestyle issues, we first need to set ourselves up to take care of ourselves. So we need to set it up so that we get enough sleep, we get enough rest. A lot of it has to do with healthy boundary setting, in my experience. Where are we saying yes when we really want to be saying no? When we know it's not right for us, but out of either fear or anger. That's what stress is to me. It's in some form, ultimately, fear or anger. We're doing things, saying things that we know in our heart are not right, but be out of whatever emotion that we're allowing to take us over, or a lot of times it's just lifelong habits of thought and behavior that we're not drawing boundaries and doing what we know is best for us.
All right. How do we, first of all, let's talk about sleep. I think a lot of people just don't get enough, and I think a lot of people have a lot of sleep that's disturbed.
Yes, in fact, it's the statistics are outrageous when we think about it. It's very difficult because some of it will have to do with just modern life. As soon as we started having electric lights, we stopped basically getting out of natural sleeping patterns. Anybody who goes camping knows, when do you go to bed?
At dark.
Sun's down. That's kind of it. Well, maybe I'll got my headlamp. I'll read for a little bit and then go to bed. So part of it is that. Some of it's the electronics. and all the electronic stimulation to our nervous system. Plus, if people have been stressed all day, that's the point. They have trouble calming down at night. So part of it is you have to look at the lifestyle issues. I tell people if they really have a problem, the electronic stuff, especially with kids and all that, really should be like turned off more around 8 o'clock at night, but most of it, depending, especially if you have trouble falling asleep, the electronics can play a role in that, and the stress plays a role in that big time. Now, some of this we can't get out of. A lot of times there are herbal things and things that can help people. If people are in really deep trouble and nothing's helping, that's when I have to really resort to the medications if it's absolutely necessary, because if I have somebody with hormone, fatigue issues, these kind of things, if they're not sleeping, no matter what I do, they're never going to get better.
I hear a common thing, and that is they're working like crazy, a lot of stress on the job. I mean, it's like pedal to the metal for 8, 10 hours, 12 hours maybe. And then they crash so hard. I mean, it's like they are just totally wiped out, totally exhausted, no more air left in the sneakers. I mean, it is crash city. Something's wrong. I mean, I mean, we shouldn't be running through the day like this. Yeah. But we do, and I'm guilty as well. I have to deal with this kind of, on a daily basis as well as it mostly has to do with pacing, and again, how is it being set up? Are we in work circumstances that don't serve us, or is it the way that we're approaching our work that doesn't serve? That, again, where is this stress coming from? I once heard, I never thought about this before, but the Indian doctor I worked with would tell people, you can hurry physically, but don't hurry mentally. Never even thought about that, but you can be hurriedly doing activity while still in a calmer meditative state of mind. I'm not saying it's easy. That takes a lot of practice, but that's what he was telling people, because when you start to hurry mentally, that's when we're generating the stress hormones, and if we're getting into, I'm not going to get it done, or somebody's going to be disappointed, and it's, again, all of these are fear, because we're fearing consequences of what's going to happen, and we're constantly on that hamster wheel. Where did stimulants come in? I mean, coffee to energy drinks and all of that. I mean, people are now addicted to this stuff because they somehow have told their brain that it helps.
Well, it does help, but you pay a price.
Okay.
And so that when you're doing those nonstop or continuously, you are feeling better. There's no question, but you're actually helping to further stress the hormone system, and particularly the adrenals, so that it becomes a vicious cycle, and you can't get out of it because you do depend on them. And some of those folks, this is where we have to use herbal things to help, and even for very sick folks, people who are really in bad shape but burn themselves out with stimulants in particular. And I've even seen a few sensitive, let's say, adolescents, young adults who've been on stimulant drugs for ADD that this happens to. We have to even use, and this is very kind of avant-garde, controversial, very low doses of adrenal hormone, hydrocortisone, to help their adrenals heal. An endocrinologist named William Jeffries did this with thousands of patients. It worked very well with none of the long-term steroid side effects that people are familiar with. But that's really an aggressive chronic fatigue protocol.
So if you have children burning their adrenals early in life, I mean, what's the future for them?
This is a big question. How do we, and I'm just reading today, we're talking about, revamping the whole education system, and we forget, play in childhood has a very constructive purpose. Right. If we're teaching children at age 4 that everything is about achievement, what are we breeding? Yeah. So they're constantly going to be in performance anxiety, and I've already seen kids sensitive. I remember a 16-year-old teenager, cute little cheerleader, who was having these spells that they couldn't figure out, that they thought was her autonomic nervous system wasn't functioning, and she had these adrenal issues, and I put her on a little bit of hydrocortisone. The brand name was Cortef, and she just came in and goes, I love my Cortef. She was going to have to quit cheerleading, and what was cool was that she only needed it for about a year and a half. She went off to junior college and she was fine, but during that time it was just too much stress and competition for her.
Can adrenals be healed or fixed or repaired?
Sure. Okay. I can't guarantee how much, but I do it all the time. The question is using herbals. Sometimes, like I say, it sounds paradoxical, but using the prescription stuff when you use low doses is like giving the adrenals crutches, and then after people have been feeling consistently well for 6-9 months or so, you can use you can use the herbals.
Oh, okay.
You can use the herbals then to wean them off the hydrocortisone. Now, if they've really, like me, spent most of their life burning their adrenals and actually may have been born with stressed adrenals, if their mother was stressed during the pregnancy, they may have actually been born with stressed adrenals, then they maybe have to do some herbal things, and it's going to be a sensitive area for them forever.
I want to talk to you about the herbal supplements.
Sure.
Dr. Joel Klein's with us from Ventana Wellness, and if you want to join us, give us a call. We'll be right back. Hey, we're back. Joel Klein's with us. Dr. Joel Klein. He worked with Ventana Wellness, and just a hoot of a guy. And the whole team over there, we were just chatting there between the break. You have a dermatologist coming on and a pain expert coming on.
Right.
Oh, that's what a great service then, huh?
Yep, and I just saw the acupuncturist yesterday. He's working on tuning up my nervous system because I need it too.
Good for you. All right, we're talking about stress and sleep and fat, how it's all connected. But several times in our conversation, you have mentioned the herbal supplements or the herbal medications after you use maybe a medicine and then you graduate them into the herbal. What do you use? What do you recommend?
There are a number of good supplements. We have one actually that Nisha has put together. The herbs that really work for adrenals, and these are the ones that the Chinese have used for kidney, because what's interesting is in Chinese medicine, the kidney, what they call the kidney, is probably really the adrenals, the kidney, and the reproductive organs. And the part that I love about that is, as a sophomore medical student, I learned that all of those come from the same ridge of tissue in the embryo, so they're all connected in the beginning. And licorice root, for really bad problems, licorice root is very strong, can raise blood pressure as well, but the old Panax ginseng, what's called the Asian or Korean ginseng, is a booster. What they call Siberian ginseng or Eleuthero is more of a balancer, and there are all kinds of these herbs. The ashwagandha that's been used in Ayurveda, rhodiola, schizandra, and the good herbalists and good companies are putting all these together in balancing formulas, and those are typically what we use.
And that's for rebuilding the adrenals.
Right, that's for rehabilitating, yeah.
Okay. What do you recommend for calming people down so they sleep good?
Well, there are other things the Nisha put together, because this is like everybody.
I always tell Nisha when I see her, I say, take 2 GABA and call me in the morning.
Well, GABA's good if the brain is going, but some of the hormonal and the cortisol stuff. So we have an AM/PM stress formula. So the morning one is kind of with the ginseng and some of these things that boost adrenals. The night one has what's called L-serine, or also what's called phosphatidylserine, theanine. There are a number of things that actually help calm adrenaline and cortisol response at night. The mental stuff, yes, the GABA is very good for the mind racing part of things.
Yeah, I mean, I've done it a couple of times, but boy, I have weird dreams, though.
Some people do, yeah, and I'd say, okay, that one may not be for you.
Yeah.
Even just, the problem is a lot of people are just magnesium deficient, because stress depletes magnesium, and low magnesium causes insomnia, anxiety, palpitations, muscle cramps, all these things, and we get magnesium from those wonderful things that are green, because the magnesium is in the chlorophyll. And the problem is a lot of magnesium supplements actually aren't digested well by people, especially as you get older and you make less stomach acid. So there are other chelates or things that are used that people will absorb them better.
Do you take magnesium alone, or do you take it with something else?
Usually, when people are having a specific problem, let's say they come in they got high blood pressure, they got insomnia and anxiety, it's like, okay, well, it sounds like we need to mostly load the magnesium up, because that's the problem. You don't take calcium by itself typically without the magnesium, but I will use magnesium if somebody has this kind of picture. Unfortunately, you can't rely on the blood test completely, because the body controls blood magnesium very closely, but you can use it a little bit. But I'll use magnesium without something else.
Are we eating dinner too late at night? Is that part of our sleep problem?
Sometimes. But let the Europeans...
Yeah, I know.
Look, I can't believe they're 10 o'clock at night. I'm in Rome, and they're just started coming in at 10 o'clock at night, and I'm going, huh? So I think it depends on the person. If you know that eating late, and again, part of it may be if your stress hormones are still high. And if stress hormones are high, what's your body doing? It's saying, this is not a time to digest food. I'm running away from a lion. I don't have time to digest my food and eliminate. So our digestion's probably poor because of the stress hormones. So the European model, when everybody's together for a social meal, and it's this whole cultural thing, and calming down, taking their time versus eating quickly is probably maybe more important than the timing, but that'll be individual for the person. People who know, when I eat after 8 o'clock, I'm just done. All right, well, that's your body obviously telling you that it's a problem, but I don't think it's universal.
On the sleep issue, we've seen more people have this sleep apnea. In fact, there's clinics now, and they're all over the place, and the guys selling the machines are making a lot of money. Can some of this be cured?
Yes, because a lot of it's weight. Now, the tissues do relax at night, so, and especially with men, it becomes more of a problem as things close down, and somebody like a gentleman I saw in the clinic yesterday already was predisposed because his space in the back of his throat is narrowed so it more easily closes. But a lot of this is connective tissue becoming weaker because of diet and digestion, so the tissues become more flabby, but a lot of it's weight, and so weight loss can cure in a lot of people with sleep apnea. The problem is once you get into that, without treating the sleep apnea, your metabolism is now even going slower, so it's even harder to lose weight if you're not treating the sleep apnea. So it becomes you have to usually treat people if they have the problem, but then it's possible that if weight is an issue and they lose enough weight, that maybe they can come off the mask.
Sleep apnea is basically a breathing problem, and you're saying the breathing problem could be a overweighted problem.
Well, the breathing problem is that the airway gets obstructed at night.
Right.
Literally closes up because the tissues have become flabby and are a little thicker and more easy to close. Or there's more tissue. You see people with the big tissue around the neck. Well, that weight is literally pushing on their airway. So obstructive sleep apnea is not necessarily a breathing problem. That's what it is. It's an obstruction problem from the tissues, and that can be caused by weight and fat.
All right, I have to tell you, and I say this respectfully because I'm not trying to offend anybody, but I've done enough international travel to know that, look, it's obvious to spot an American in a foreign country because they're usually overweight. We do have an obesity problem.
Absolutely. And most of it is the processed food that we all eat. And not enough vegetables, produce, but it's the flour products and things that we eat. It's high calorie malnutrition, as people have been calling it for a long time.
All right, and the whole gluten thing is a whole new level of awareness. Is that a cultural thing, or is that just an American thing?
That's a big issue. Well, you talk to some people come over from Europe, and they say, I can eat bread in Europe, but I can't eat it here. So whether it's the monocultures of wheat that we're using.
Is it the GMOs?
I don't know. GMO can be part of it because, but again, these cultures of wheat that are more prone to producing, because gluten is a family of molecules. So it's certainly a more prevalent problem. It's not universal. It's not everybody should avoid gluten, but there is a huge percentage of people that have gluten problems that had no idea they have it, because half of people with celiac disease have no gastrointestinal problems. So well, my stomach feels fine, and we stop their gluten and their asthma or their arthritis or God knows what, in autoimmune inflammatory disease and all these other things get better, and they never had any stomach complaints.
All right, so the whole gluten issue is basically a byproduct of wheat?
Well, no, wheat and other grains.
And other grains.
Yes. So the non-gluten grains are like rice, or you can get gluten-free oats, or quinoa, some of these other buckwheat, millet that you can get in health food stores. So, but it's in most of those, the other grains. So wheat, spelt, and kamut, even though they're wheat alternatives, it can say wheat-free, but if it's made with spelt, it still has gluten in it.
All right, the key issues here today, though, are sleep, stress, sleep, and fat, and they're all certainly all connected. Is there an 8-hour requirement to sleep? And what do you recommend?
For most people, I think so now, especially if they're having problems. I think as you get a lot older, then you still might, and sleep gets more fragmented. But certainly, if we're having people who have any kind of hormonal or fatigue problems and all that, 8 to 9 hours seems to be what people should be getting. Some people, can do 7.
That's me.
Yeah, and if you can, and again, you listen to your body. But part of it may be we're paying a price with that if you wind up that you're living on stress hormones and you're having some signals from your body that you are. So, you're doing all the workout and all that, this thing won't go away. And I have women who are doing, because they're over-exercising, actually trying to get rid of that belly fat, and all they're doing is driving up their cortisol worse. So I've had people actually told them, and they were scared to death to cut their exercise regimen in half. and they lost weight.
I have to tell you, I go to the gym and I see people overworking out.
Right.
You know, and especially in two ways. One, they're just thin as a bone and they overwork out.
Right.
Or they have the belly fat issue. They're just pumping iron like crazy, thinking that's going to do something. And the only thing they're doing is adding muscle.
Well, but that muscle can help. But don't mistake it for being the whole thing, because with increased muscle mass, your basal metabolic rate, what you burn just sitting doing nothing, increases. So your calorie expenditure during the day increases automatically with more muscle mass. People who are really smart about this talk about we need to go back and forth, and probably on different days, and do cardio one day, weight training the next, and go back and forth, because they both complement each other. But I do have people over-exercising, and those are the ones that keep pushing. They're not losing weight, or they're crashing. And if they're exhausted after the exercise, but think they have to do it to lose weight, and they're wind up actually maybe causing too much problem.
I'm just kind of curious on this next question. As a physician, do you ever look at a patient and say, look, you're just flat overweight, you got to get this off?
It's never quite that simple.
Okay, I understand that.
No.
But I mean, in your brain, aren't you saying that?
Well, that's a big part of it, but then the question is, all right, but now the problem is if they're that overweight, all right, what metabolic issues now, number one, is the weight causing, and what metabolic and hormone issues predispose them to getting to this place?
Okay.
So I still look at the whole picture. But yeah, a lot of people, look at, well, if we just lost weight, you can get you off the diabetes medicine, the high blood pressure medicine, all of that, but it's not quite that simple. It's not as simple as just, calories in, calories out, like we think. There's a lot of metabolic signaling. There's other things, and again, you can be having less calories, but if they're processed carbohydrate calories, you may not be doing yourself as much of a favor. So there is a larger picture, but that's a big part of it.
All right, we got a few minutes left. What's your summer tip to start off right? I mean, because I think people want to do the right thing. They usually jump into it like they jump out of it, so they crash halfway into it.
Exactly, because you're trying to overdo. So start working on the processed foods. And I tell people when I'm working on diet, if we could change breakfast. If you have any kind of pre-diabetic tendency, which is a huge part of the population, the worst thing you can do is have a bowl of cereal for breakfast.
Okay.
That sets your insulin thermostat in the wrong direction the rest of the day. It turns out that maybe eggs and even sausage or those kind of things may actually be better. But if we can get away from the flour products, that's part of the biggest issue. And produce, but don't go crazy on the fruits, because it's summer. We ate a lot of those fruits will increase a little bit of insulin resistance. So one piece of whole fruit maybe a day. Berries are better. So because we hear 6 or 7 servings of fruits and vegetables, and we think that means 6 fruits and 1 vegetable, and it really should be probably the other way around. Right. And even our vegetables now are more starchy because the plants don't have to defend themselves, so they put more energy into just making starch, because they're not making all these healthy compounds if they're grown commercially, and they don't have to deal with bugs, and they don't have to deal with the environment, and given ideal circumstances. So organic probably is better. Yes, it's more expensive, but this is what people who've studied Victorian England in the 1800s found. The truth is they lived as long or longer than we do now if they lived past the age of 5, and they had no degenerative disease.
All right, we got to do a show on vegan because it seems to be very popular.
Yes, and I think it has to be taken. It's not for everybody.
Okay, because there's a new one out there. If it has a face on it, don't eat it.
Right.
And I understand that.
I understand it
and
too.
I get it, but you can overdo it.
For spiritual reasons, it's one thing, but a lot of people are making themselves physically more ill if they're not living the right lifestyle. If they're living this cortisol-inducing lifestyle, they're going to crash on a vegan diet.
All right. Hey, thanks, man.
You bet. Always a pleasure.
Dr. Joel Klein, he's with Ventana Wellness. Check it out and check him out. He's a great guy. We'll see you next.